Two grown men, one of those men being Randall Keith, Randall Keith, playing hide and seek live on last night's WWE Raw. We had a puppet signing a carrot to go to the home of a WWE superstar because the rabbit living at the home of that WWE superstar, of course called Riddle. They wanted to sign carrot from Ramblin' Rabbit. We had a guy shape-shifting, transforming into one human vessel into another human vessel after hopping out of a burning box. Last night's Raw was absolutely bat-poo crazy. So bat-poo crazy, it proved beyond any shadow of any doubt that the Raw creative team take all of the hallucinogenics in the world. And I tell you what, last night's show got off to such a great start. A couple of long matches, a couple of fine promos. I was thinking, wow, we're settling in for a good episode of Monday Night Raw. But then it descended into utter pandemonium. The craziness, it was just too far off the bloody wall, and it made last night's Raw such a slog to get through. We've got SmackDown over here producing all kinds of good wrestling shows, but last night's Monday Night Raw, and this comes from a guy who loves his silly bollocks in the professional wrestling. It was just too silly and too out there, even for me, so much so it ruined the show. And by the way, I'm using this thing here because I broke my clip-on microphone and we have none others in the office. But hey ho, such is life. I am Ross Twaddell from Cultaholic Wrestling, and if you smell, I'm not going to bother doing that. Here are the WTF moments from last night's Monday Night Raw. Hit the intro man. So we kicked off last night's show highlighting some tantalizing bollocks from last week's show that wasn't tantalizing in the slightest. Of course, on last week's show we saw Sheamus Daddy Drew McIntyre upside the head, inadvertently of course, but even though it was proven, it was an utter, complete mistake, and Daddy Drew and Sheamus, they had a fight to sort out their differences, because that's what biological brothers do. Tom Phillips was shown during that opening promo package to last night's Raw, saying, now there's something to contemplate between McIntyre and Sheamus, and I was thinking, no Tom, I was watching last week's Raw, they had their fight, they went for a beer, the issue, it was sorted, there and then. Why are we tantalizing things that were already sorted on last week's show? It made me think about this writer's application I did on this very YouTube channel a couple of short weeks ago. Consistency, continuity, these are things WWE apparently take into account when putting their professional wrestling shows together. But the opening promo package to last night's Raw, it proved they don't. Load of bollocks, WWE. And then we learned we were going to have an ascension ceremony for the WWE title belt. Yes, we were going to have a ceremony to close out last night's Raw, where we watched the WWE title get hoisted into the position it gets hoisted into for a TLC match, because that was completely worthwhile and something we all needed to see. But also, while we're here, I miss Connor and Victor. There, I said it. And I was watching Miz flicking through that book there, and I was asking myself the question, everybody, since when does a book start in the middle of a book? Now, I know there's bigger issues in the world today, but I was asking myself this question simply because I love books, and I know how books work. I love books so much, in fact, dear viewer, that I touch my shelf. Not in a dirty way, I touched my bookshelf. And I didn't even know if this was possible, but Gimmick Infringement Kane came on the scene and he let me know if I didn't make this an example of some gimmick infringing, he would zap my testicles with electricity, like he did to Colonel McSweaty Bollocks all the way back in 2003-4. Was it 4? Was it 3? Who cares? Shane McMahon had his bollocks zapped. But John Morrison committed gimmick infringement on himself. Yes, we've seen Jomo do this Scottish bollocks in a WWE ring towards the direction of Daddy Drew McIntyre before. And at this time, of course, I would like to apologise to each and every Scottish person watching this WTF Moments video today. Last week, I wrongly said that when Jomo called you fine people a bunch of sheep shaggers, he got his stereotypes mixed up. That was the Welsh, I thought, but no, lots of Scottish people have told me that Scottish people do, in fact, shag all the sheep especially those people from Aberdeen or something like that. Aren't stereotypes fun, and how people like to claim them as their own? I don't know about you, but if some people said the Geordies shag sheep, I would say no, we don't. Go away, instead of going, in fact, Ross, we do shag the sheep. So I'm very sorry to all the Scottish people watching today. Aren't stereotypes fun? And then we learned that after assaulting WWE official Pat Buck on last week's thrilling installment of Monday Night Raw, Sheamus and Daddy Drew McIntyre would not be facing any ramifications because basically WWE said, Pat Buck, it was your own fault for getting involved and actually doing your job like you are supposed to do. Shame on you for trying, Pat. Now, I like Daddy Drew and Sheamus, so I wasn't complaining too much at the fact those two big, strapping, lovely, sweaty fellas were not getting any fines or suspensions placed on their sorry arses, but I could not help but think about Nia Jax. If she did what Daddy Drew and Sheamus did on last week's Raw, she would have been suspended, so I guess what's fair for her is fair for other people. But then again, who really cares? Hey now, WWE, I am a loyal subscriber of Celtic Warrior Workouts, and I find it too hard to believe that Sheamus, instead of floundering about like a fish, like he was there, struggling to do a sit-up from the floor to his feet in the ropes, he could do that no issue at all. And I know that because he does way more impressive feats of athleticism, easy for me to say, on the Celtic Warrior Workout YouTube channel. You see, WWE, I could not suspend my disbelief in this scenario here because we all know that Sheamus, he's got ripped over the past year or so, even more ripped than he was already. He's taken the abs of Tony Nese. He's taken the abs of Johnny Gargano. He's taken the abs of Finn Balor and he's put them all in his own abs. That's how abby he is. Abalicious. And then we see Bobby Lashley bullying a member of WWE's backstage team or something like that, and in the midst of doing so, he only got milk on his own bloody suit. And all of that right there just reminded me of simpler times in Bobby Lashley's life, a period of time when he was a very small boy and his big sisters would take him to a random field in the middle of nowhere, tie him up, laugh at him, and leave him there to struggle and presumably die. I mean, that stuff there, it didn't actually remind me of any of what I just said there. I just wanted to remind you that stuff that actually happened in the realms of storyline and kayfabe in Bobby Lashley's character makeup. It's fantastic, isn't it? Merry Christmas, Bobby Lashley's sisters. And as we were watching Jeffrey James Cuthbert Hardy doing the wrestles on last night's Monday Night Raw, Tom Phillips piped up to remind us of the back injury suffered by Jeffrey Hardy during that Symphony of Destruction matchup against Elias a couple of weeks ago on Monday Night Raw. And I was thinking, back injury, Tom Phillips? That's a really funny way of saying head. How wasn't the inside of Jeffrey Hardy's head the thing that got injured during that matchup when you recall that horrible fall he took at the end of the match? It beggars belief. But then Tom Phillips faced fornicators lying out of poo on commentary. I hope you can still hear me. I can't do that thing to its full effect with this handheld microphone in my hand when he claimed that for the first time ever, the Thunderdome was inside Tropicana Field for last night's Raw, even though we all know, because we're sad pricks who read the internet wrestling rumours and all that stuff, Tropicana Field's debut happened for the Thunderdome for last Friday's SmackDown. Yes, of course, it's the first Monday Night Raw in there, but Tom Phillips didn't say that. Therefore, WTF. Really groundbreaking and monumental stuff on this week's WTF Moments. I think I died during this week's Raw. And then we learned that Rusev, that lovely, wholesome specimen of Bulgarian bloody Gucci meat, he taught Lana that pinning combination there, and that's it. The WTF moment. I guess we could also say that Lana pinning Nia Jax, beating Nia Jax, pretty clean indeed after everything that's happened to Lana at the hands of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler over the past couple of years. It feels like years, but it's actually just a couple of months, of course. I guess we could say that's a WTF moment, but no! The pin! How she learnt that pin! That's the real WTF moment here. So this was weird. Elias wants to play a song. He's got Jackson Ryker as his bodyguard now. Cheer, everybody! Ryker tells us he's been reborn. He's seen the light. He's seen the error of his ways. Elias's music has seen him do some good things over the last little while. Ryker is sick of seeing Elias getting interrupted, so that's why he's standing at Elias' side, so if anybody tries, he can stop them. Ryker also tells us he's been changed by Elias' music, and I was thinking good. But then just as Elias starts to play a song once again, R-Truth interrupts Elias, and just as Jackson Ryker goes to do the thing he said he was going to do, which was stop people interrupting Elias stops him, which leaves me asking the question, what's the point in Jackson Ryker? I nearly forgot his name there, so I'll say it again. That left me asking the question, what's the point in Jackson Ryker? Then the 24/7 lads came down to the ring. They did some 24/7 stuff, the same 24/7 stuff we see each and every week. WWE, change it up, will you, man? Ryker looked good there, of course, decimating everybody who dared to step in that ring where his musical daddy, Elias, sat on his musical chair. But when all that was done, Ryker's cleared house. Everybody's gone. You're thinking, wow, finally, Elias can perform his song uninterrupted thanks to Jackson Ryker. What a great way to debut. What a great way to say why you are here. What a great way to display why you are here too. And then just as Elias plays the first note, we fade to black and we cut to a different scene. What was the point in any of that? So then we see Keith Lee, who has a coin. He flips that coin, and then The Miz and John Morrison, they pick the right side of the coin that the coin landed on. And Keith Lee says, boys, let me just cut the promo like Keith Lee would. Boys, you might have won that coin flip, but that's all you're going to win. It wasn't quite like that, but it was almost like that. That was terrible, WWE. Why did Keith have a coin? He didn't need a coin. All he needed to go was, lads, I'm bigger than you. I can do the wrestle better than both of you. Put together, let's go out there and let's do the wrestles. Take your coin and put it up your arse, will you? And then after we saw Mace go, which is apparently scary or something, we heard Mustafa Ali asking the commentary team live on last night's Raw, why wouldn't I want Ricochet as part of Retribution? And I was thinking, Mustafa Ali, it's because WWE have reduced Ricochet into a really boring professional wrestler who within the realms of storyline and kayfabe isn't very good at the professional wrestling. He barely wins matches on Monday Night Raw. He barely wrestles on Monday Night Raw. That's why we think you wouldn't want him. I was just sat there thinking, go after AJ Styles, Mustafa Ali. Why the hell not, man? Paint the town red. Kick up your heels. And then during that Mace versus Ricochet matchup, Mustafa Ali asked Samoa Joe, hey Samoa Joe, aren't you in Mace's commentary seat? And finally, it was explained. It's actually supposed to be this way, everybody. Mia Yim is supposed to look like retaliation. That's because she's Mia Yim. The people in Retribution are actually supposed to be the people who they used to be in WWE. But then that leaves you asking the question, WWE, why give them such goofy, horrible names? Why couldn't Mia Yim? Why couldn't Dijakovic? Why couldn't Dio Madden just have gone to Shane Thorne as well? Sorry, I do apologise, Shane Thorne. Slapjack's the best. Why couldn't they have just gone into Retribution with their WWE names? You take away a big portion of the problem with Retribution, which is, by the way, the utter naffness of the names and the stupid Bane masks that were cool in 2012, but it's nearly 2021, for goodness sake. Leave them their names, you take away a big portion of what's wrong and what people aren't liking about Retribution. Why would you do that to yourselves, WWE? And yes, I know I mentioned it in the intro to this very video, but there we see Riddle asking Rambling Rabbit to sign a carrot to his rabbit called Skipper, who was waiting for an autographed carrot at home. That is professional wrestling. I said on the podcast last week with Matthew and Jack the Jobber, available now on the Cultaholic YouTube channel and Acast and other places that you get podcasts from. I haven't been minding the Riddle stuff. In places, it's quite funny, but this stuff, it just makes you want to push your fingers into your eyes. This microphone has got me going radio rental. And let's leave the attempted murder at the door because, quite frankly, there are more pressing issues at hand here. And that's because Gimmick Infringement Kane has told me to forget about the attempted murder because, like Randall Keith Orton, in the direction of Bray Wyatt, Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt, of course, on last night's Raw, just like Randall Keith tried to kill an attempted murder, if you will, just like he tried to kill Bray Wyatt on last night's Raw, Gimmick Infringement Kane tried to kill his brother, The Undertaker, at the Royal Rumble of 1998 in a very similar fashion. You see, back in 1998, Gimmick Infringement Kane, or was he just known as Kane back then? Probably. He locked his brother Undertaker inside of a casket, otherwise known as a box, and he set that box on fire, and he stuck his fingers up at the Undertaker while he did so. Last night on Raw, Randy Orton takes Bray Wyatt, throws him in a box, sets it on fire, gimmick infringement committed. But the gimmick infringing did not stop there on last night's Raw, because then the Fiend popped out of that box that was on fire, just like the Undertaker did back at Survivor Series 2005, and it's a gimmick infringement ting because it was also in the direction of Randall Keith, who was looking at the Fiend during that segment on last night's Raw. The stuff that gimmick infringement Kane witnessed happening in that segment on last night's Raw got gimmick infringement Kane so angry that gimmick infringement Kane, everybody, he became pregnant and he gave birth to the small wobbly-headed machine. Now, AJ Styles lied to you on last night's Raw, and even though he is a professional wrestling heel, I am just too good a human being to let that one slide. Last night on Raw, AJ Styles said in the direction of Daddy Drew McIntyre, "Hey Drew, we've never done the wrestling in a singles match, we've never gone at it one-on-one, it's the little things." And I'm here to tell you those two lads had a singles match, a dark singles match by the way, which I do concede means it might not count, but in this realm where I'm clutching at all of the straws available to clutch, it counts all right. It was the dark match, Raw episode 1355. Last May, I think it was, May 2019, AJ Styles defeats Daddy Drew McIntyre, a very different Daddy Drew McIntyre, of course, via disqualification. It happened in London, England, and it happened, therefore WTF. And then AJ Styles said to Daddy Drew McIntyre, "Hey Drew, you've never been in a TLC match, the little things." And worst thing of all, Daddy Drew McIntyre nodded along in agreement with AJ Styles, even though once again, AJ Styles told a massive lie. Are we supposed to just sit there and accept this to be true and accept that Daddy Drew McIntyre did not take part in WeLC, which by the way is the best TLC match in the history of TLC matches? Sorry, the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, of course. And also, do we have to just accept that Daddy Drew McIntyre taken the most pointless bump in the history of professional wrestling? Are we just supposed to accept that didn't happen? No, I'm not going to do that. WeLC happened, Daddy Drew was involved, he took the most pointless bump in the history of professional wrestling. Thank you for your time, everybody. But that's it for your WTF moments from last night's Raw is absolutely terrible. Awful episode last night, apart from the start. Such a good start, petered out into utter nothingness. I think I'm dead inside. Do not worry, this is the only WTF Moments video we'll be doing with a microphone in my hand, because it turns out I concentrate too much on speaking into the microphone when I need my arms, this arm in particular, to emote in your direction. But also, this is my last Raw WTF Moments of 2020. AEW on Thursday, that will get published. SmackDown on Saturday, that will get published. TLC next Monday, that will get published. And then I'm off on my Christmas break. So just a warning there for you. The end is nigh. I've been Ross, and I'll see you later.